Hello everyone, welcome to the Jerry Foster SEMO Music and Art Podcast. My guest today, I'm very excited to have on here. He's done a lot for the local music scene. I listen to him every morning when I drop my daughter off from school. He's done just a tremendous amount of work for the St. Jude's Children's Miracle Network. Did I say that correctly?
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital.
Research Hospital? What was that thing, the Miracle Network?
Children's Miracle Network. Walmart does a lot of stuff with that.
That's okay. I got them confused. I knew it was St. Jude's. Anyway, my guest is a local radio personality from Z95 The Bone, Mr. Randy Bailey. Welcome to the show, Randy.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I was really excited when you said you were going to start doing this too. I'm like, really cool, because I wanted to do something like this too, but it's one of those things that who knows when I'll ever have the time to do it. And I'm like, if somebody I know is going to do this, cool, because there's a lot of awesome people, a lot of interesting people, a lot of interesting stories that can be told from our musicians and, just people around us here in this area. So I'm loving it. I'm glad to be here.
You know why I wanted to do it?
Why?
I wanted to cuss.
Oh, okay.
No, that's not. No, man. I just had this idea that I wanted to talk shop with my buddies and the people that have helped make the local music scene, which I've been a part of for a couple decades now. Mm-hmm. But it really took off when the radio station Z95 The Bone, and especially you, putting Bone Stock together and having the show that Chris does, once a month, the Bone in Your Backyard show, and just really promoting local music, which was something we did not have when I started off. And I've always been somebody who is constantly, I got my notebook right here. I want to write songs. I always wanted to write songs.
Right.
And I always, in my mind, and I know some other guys at the time that were writing songs too, that we were always like, man, I wish there was a way we could get this heard, because this is before the internet too.
Sure.
There was another radio station here in town. Well, we can say it, the AM station. They would have bands come in, but it was usually it wasn't anything I was doing. It was bluegrass or something like that, and they were live on the air. It wasn't like getting to write and record, submit a song, and then like, oh man, I can tell my friends at this specific time, listen in, I want to be on the radio.
Right.
But when you guys did that, it is amazing. Now, I've known a lot of musicians. I'm well connected enough with the musicians around here. I've known a lot of them that aren't even playing anymore. Never has there been such an influx of original music, and not only are bands writing original music, we're playing them out and people recognize them, which is amazing.
Right.
If you were in the music scene before you guys came along and started doing that, thank you, man. I'm so honored to be able to sit down with you one-on-one and just say thank you for allowing us to do that.
Hey, that's my pleasure. And I've heard you on other podcasts with other people. You bring that up and stuff, and I appreciate you guys giving us love like that. It's really cool. I wanted to do that years ago. Before I came here, I've been here since June of 2000, believe it or not. And before I came here, I was in West Plains, Missouri for about 7 years or so, 7 or 8 years. And I had friends that were in bands, and they would want me to play their stuff, or I would want to help them, and I would mention their shows coming up. And I wanted to do this a long, long time ago to help local bands as much as I could. I came into a lot of roadblocks before, and as soon as I got, it's about windows. As soon as I got a window, just, I was told, well, just run it how you want to. And that was one of the main things I wanted to do. I was like, I want to do like a local music show where we spotlight local artists, where we help local artists, where we, if there's any kind of a scene around here, if people are playing somewhere, we got to get that info out to everybody. So that's why we do our concert update, which is free, by the way. When people have shows coming up, call us or email me or Facebook it and let me know, because that's free to get your show out there, and that's what it's about. We're trying to promote everybody, because there's a lot of great talent, a lot of great local talent and stuff. Yeah, there really is.
And I couldn't be more tickled to just have my small little part in it. It's been a really fun and exciting time to be a songwriter, especially in Southeast Missouri. And like I said, thanks to you guys giving us the platform for it to be heard. You play a gig and people are asking you to play a song that they may have heard on Z95.
See, that's got to be cool, man.
And it is,
Yeah.
and to see people out there dancing. I mean, you see this big fancy setup I've gotten here. This is where my brain is when I personally am writing a song. We're in my bedroom, by the way. And
brother, I worked at a station. It was in Hoxie, Arkansas, and it was like a storage building that had a little bit built on to the back of it, just a little bit. So it was a very, very small enclosed place. You didn't go number 2 in the bathroom because it was like over here to the left of you, and and the dude told me, he goes, Randy, they don't know where this is coming from.
No,
they have no idea. So it could be some multi-million-dollar building somewhere, or it could be this little Morgan building out in the middle of Hoxie, in the middle of a field
where you do not do a number 2.
No. No matter how hungover you are from Saturday night, you don't.
That is so funny, man. But yeah, I mean, it is neat because having a little podcast like this right here, even, and I've got friends that listen to it. I've got a friend in England who's been listening, so that's cool, pretty neat. But to see these ideas that come up wherever they are, and then the full circle. Me and Roger were talking about this, is to hear them on the radio and then to go out and play them, and people know them because they listen to the radio. Right. So it's a really neat marriage between our local radio station and the artists and the musicians.
And it feels good for us too, man. Like at Bone Stock, or if we go to a show and Cinder Block is playing and there's people in the audience, singing "Mirror, Mirror on the Wall," and you're like, oh, cool, they heard it,
You've done you've definitely reached people.
Yeah.
And that's a really neat thing. So, how difficult was it to ask the upper echelon in the radio industry to allow you guys to do the local? Like, how much of a risk was there? And there had to have been some sort of all right, man, if this doesn't work, this could be my reputation. Was there?
Yeah.
Like, I know you don't want to.
At first, I got kind of. We switched ownership, and when we switched from Zimmer to Max Media, and there was a lady involved with that was kind of overseeing Poplar Bluff market, and she sat down with me and with our other program directors and said, "Look, you guys, you know what you're doing. Run your stations. Do what you do." And that was one of the things I did, and I switched.
Unbelievable.
And I switched the name to Z95 The Bone, and there were some faces in the building when I told them that, because I knew that would have impact. I was like,
sure,
that's going to have impact. We were pushing that Classics 95.5 thing, for years, pushing, but it was like overnight. If you said The Bone, you knew it was us. It was 95.5.
Yeah.
So I knew that would have that impact. We were going to do what we could for our local
You
bands.
immediately had a brand.
Yeah.
Which is something bands, by the way, anybody listening to.
Right.
Try to have a brand.
Have a brand. Get the people who listen to you, involved somehow. That's how, I really push that. Like, if you're listening and, you listen to The Bone, you're a bonehead, Yeah. You're part of us. You're one of us. You're part of a family. You're part of a dysfunctional, huge family of people who love rock and, support this music and support our local scene, too.
You know who else is really good at that? Vince McMahon from the WWE.
Oh, yeah.
He calls it the universe, the WWE universe.
Sure.
But people want to feel like they're a part of something. I can't remember who I was talking to on here. It may have been Roger or Corey. I can't remember. But yeah, people want to feel like they are a part of your band. They want to feel like they are a part of your scene.
Sure.
Yeah, and Z95's done an amazing job of that, because I remember it, man. I used to, probably early 90s, mid 90s, it seemed like all they played was the Eagles. I was like, oh man. Because at the time, I don't even think we had like a modern rock station.
Right.
So it's neat that you guys are able to still mix that and not lose that audience, but you're also playing new music as well.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. And if you go into the
Gives
city,
me a lot of gray hairs to straddle that, to try to do a little something for everybody. But that's where we are down here in our awesome little place that we're in between Memphis and St. Louis, and Jonesboro's over there and Springfield's over there, and we're right in a neat little place, and what we're doing is we want to be the rock station around here, so we want to play.
I think you've got it covered.
Well, cool.
I think you've got it covered.
I hope
man. So we've been kind of talking about the more recent stuff that's been going on. We're going to get back to it, but I kind of want to hear the Randy Bailey story. Like when you were a little kid, were you like smitten with radio personalities? Like was there something about radio that you were just like, man, I want to be a part of that? Or was it just music as a whole?
Music as a whole, pretty much. I mean, I love listening to the radio. There wasn't much to do. I grew up in a little town with about 300 and something people in it, and listening to the radio was a big deal. That and playing Atari, and
yeah, getting your combat on.
Yeah,
with
dude,
Atari,
River Raid,
Pac-Man.
Yeah, so Defender, Joust,
Galaga.
Yeah, Galaxian.
Mm-hmm.
I even had the little
Donkey Kong, Frogger, Centipede, Cubert.
Yeah, I could play. Man, I can't think of the game now. I could just a second ago. It had the little twisting...
Pole position?
Pole position was one of them. And then Tempest. That was another one. Do you remember Tempest?
Yeah.
Love that game, too.
Yeah, you don't have this much gray hair and not remember Atari.
Yeah. Dude, I dug listening to the radio. Loved Rick Dees, but yeah, just music as a whole. I love listening to music. And then, when I started getting into the, like the Rat, Motley Crue, that whole era and stuff too, and I was just a big music fan, after that too. So love.
So was it at that time you're like, man, I want to get on the radio and spin this, I want to play these?
No, yeah. At first,
did you just kind of stumble into radio?
Yeah, kind of. I wanted to be a rock star. Like a lot of us radio people were frustrated rock stars and actors and comedians and.
Well, I have no idea. I'm asking this for the first time. Can you play an instrument?
Yeah.
What do you play?
I play guitar a little bit. It's been a while since I picked it up, but yeah.
Is there any chance I could get you to play something on this podcast?
Maybe. I mean,
we may have to tune up one of the guitars.
It's been a long time, dude.
That's all right.
It's been a long time since I picked one up, but yeah, I mean, I got my first radio job. I was at the Art Institute in Fort Lauderdale, and I was taking music business. I was doing a degree program for music business, and one of my teachers, she was helping us with our resumes, and she looked at me and my roommate Frank, and she was like, "You guys have a lot of industry stuff to put on this, And we're like, "Yeah. What can we do?" She's like, "Well, I know a guy, and I know a guy at the radio station, one of the radio stations here in town. It was like an adult contemporary type format, and this was in '89." And she's like, "I'll call him up, and he needs some part-time people and some people on something called a research team." And the research team would call people and get them to listen to little pieces of songs, like just a hook from a bunch of different songs on their playlist, and say, "What did you think about that? Did you like it? Did you kind of like it? Would you rather not hear it on the radio?" And we would have to get people to sit through these long, basically research interviews with all this music and stuff. And
how difficult was it to find willing participants for that?
Brother, we were in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, down in South Florida.
Nice.
So the majority of people, when they answered the phone, they're like, "Hola," and you're like, "Oh, this is gonna be difficult," ma'am. So, but once you got them on, and they liked the way I got people on and talked to them and got them involved with listening to everything, and so then they brought me in and wanted me to be a part-time person, and that was my first job. I got a little help getting into it, and then I graduated from the Art Institute. I moved back home in Arkansas for a little bit, and there's not a lot of action in the music business, in Raven Springs, Arkansas. So I was like, I got to do something. Something's got to give, And then I was like, well, I could always attempt to get a job in radio. It was kind of at the bottom of my list, I was like, I got to, You know, what am I going to do?
What were you wanting to do with your degree? What?
I had a lot of stuff that I was interested in, man. I loved concert promotion. Loved it. Loved all of my classes in concert promotion. Record promotion. Loved that too. Just so, in production, being in the studio. Loved being in the studio. You mentioned the Eagles earlier. One of my instructors was Ed Mashal. He was the engineer for the Long Run, Hotel California. So
oh, wow.
I had to work with some really cool people. And
that's cool. That's real cool.
But
so,
yeah.
Do you remember the first time you were on the air? Do you remember like the first time that the red light or whatever they would call it, the on air light came on? Do you have like a?
No, not really.
Man, I was hoping for a good story, like I pissed my pants or.
No, I don't really remember it.
Or I let one loose that definitely made it through the microphone.
Dude, I was always pretty comfortable with it. You know, I don't know. Just some people have it. You know, that light goes on. It's time.
You just took it like a fish to water, huh? Mm-hmm. That's neat, man. Mm-hmm. Like, as I can remember my first paying gig, and like the nerves were definitely there.
You know what's weird, man? I don't have any butterflies, or I don't get weird, you know, doing this or doing the radio or doing stuff in front of 20 people, 2,000 people. It doesn't matter. What's weird, man, when I'm doing anything in front of my church, I get really nervous. I don't know why. I just don't want to mess up in front of them. I don't get it.
Huh.
But like when we do plays or when I talk or if I have to do anything for in front of all of them.
Do you think it's the church you're worried about, or you just want to be that good for God?
That's it, I think.
Yeah. It's more of, okay, I have to be more. I can't be off the. It's got to be more reverent, and this is more solemn. This is the real deal. Yeah, I mean, I'm a Christian as well, and it's like when I pray and I talk to God, even I have a very. It's just a different dialect that I use in prayer that I would use talking to me and you. It's like this is the dad of all dads. I show reverence, kind of thing.
Well, on the surface, you try to say, well, everything I do is for God and everything, But when it comes right down to it, when you're in front of just your church folk, then I kind of get.
It's kind of intimate.
I get a little, very.
Versus. I could definitely see that. Yeah. I could see that. Probably, and not to take away anything from the radio station at all, but I would imagine, because you're sharing your relationship with God, that's what I would think would be making it a little more intimate, because that's just more private than. It's just such a private thing to share your affection with your deity. But I would also imagine that to a degree, like if you're in a play at church and you pull it off and everything goes great, it's probably really rewarding.
It's a great feeling. You can't even describe it.
Yeah.
Especially, we just did a Christmas play at my church, and there were about 6,000 people that came through to see it. We did it for 4 nights. And
did you have butterflies every night?
Well, not so much. I recorded my part in the play. We recorded it a couple months beforehand, and I pitched in behind the scenes. I was in the backstage hand stuff, and but I've done stuff in front of everyone like that too, live, and I mean it's neat, man. When you see that it's changing people's lives, and when you see people that they watch the play and they want to take that step and they want to turn their life over to Christ and and try living another way, and give it a shot. It's beautiful,
That's cool.
It's
so here you are. You have an open format here. Well, first of all, when you're behind the mic at the radio station, how much discussion of your belief in Christ and are you allowed to do? I'm sure that there's certain lines you can't cross. I'm not even supposed to talk about religion at my job. Right. Period.
Well, I don't know. I've never really thought about it.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I don't hide it. I know, I don't try to mask it or any way. I mean, I would hope that people who listen on a regular basis gets that, that I am a Christian, but, I'm a Christian that's doing the radio show. I don't know, man. I don't have. I've never been called into the office about it.
That's awesome.
And when I think that my boss, John, he's also a Christian, and I think that he's pretty lenient about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that there's any rules or any. I've never got any kind of negative anything
feedback
from anybody that I work with.
Yeah, that's great, man.
So,
So here you are in a totally different situation with a microphone in front of you. Hopefully lots of people listen. Here's your opportunity. If you were to, and before we try to, I am a Christian. I believe in God. I believe Jesus Christ died on the cross for my sins.
Mm-hmm.
I would have a testimony to tell people, just even I've been a Christian since I was a kid,
right.
But this last year has just been such a transformative year, and I give it all to God. And I almost find people say, dude, why don't you take credit for some of this? You put in hard work, and yeah, I did, but I couldn't have done it without God.
Right.
There's no way. So here's your opportunity. If you were to say anything to anybody that might be on the fence about this God thing, what could you possibly say? Because I am not afraid to talk about God on here. I will gladly.
Cool.
That's not an issue.
I would just say that if there's somebody that's frustrated, and there's somebody that's went through a lot of stuff, and so many times I'll hear people they'll say, oh, dude, I've been thinking about maybe going to church, maybe doing all that, but I got to take care of some stuff first, or I got to fix some stuff first, or I guess what they're trying to say is they got to make themselves perfect before they can show up at a church, because everybody's perfect at church, and that's not true. Nobody's perfect, and we just try to, I just try every day to take the basic concept, which is, do the commandments and love each other. That's the simplest of Christ's teachings. Just love each other. Just do that. And we have so much trouble with that. It's so simple, but it's so difficult for us. But I was in some bad stuff in my life, and I really had I had an instance where before I came here, I was in West Plains, Missouri, and drugs were a big thing with me at the time. I was way out of control, and I was on drugs. I had lost my wife. I had lost my job. I had lost a lot of stuff. My family, my job, everything that I held sacred at the time, all of that was gone in an instant. And I was at a couch in my living room, and I had a 9mm, and I was gonna pull the trigger, and I just said, God, if you are who you say you are, then give me a reason not to pull the trigger. And the voice said, Randy, I have not yet begun to show you what you can do or how much you can actually live. Live for me, turn your life over to me, and I'll show you how much you can live. And from that moment forward, I stopped a lot of things in my life, and I gave my life to Christ. And since then, it hasn't been perfect, and I fall from time to time, and there's times that I think, somebody's going to hear this, or they're going to see this, or they're going to think that, this guy, he's trying to say
he's talking out both sides of his mouth.
He's one of those Jesus freaks, but he's doing this, or he's, but every day you just do it. Every day.
Brother, it's like this. If the only people that went to church or believed in God were perfect people, what's the point?
Exactly.
That's like saying the only people that should be in a hospital are people that are already well.
Exactly.
When I hear someone say, I don't go to church because it's full of hypocrites, I'm like, thank God.
Yeah.
I'm glad they're there.
What's one more? What's one more?
Well, yeah. I'm glad they're there. They should. That's a good place for them to be.
Yeah, the thing that I think it's cool, if somebody's following Christ and they want to have a little bit more, maybe they want to hear the word more, or they want to learn more about this walk and how much more it can enrich their lives, or they want to learn more. I learn more about my walk with Christ when I go to church, but I don't push it on people. I'm like,
well, you can't. I mean,
the best thing you can do is just start a relationship. Pray, just pray and start a relationship with Christ. Pick up a Bible and read a little bit, and it'll lead you to where you need to. It's weird like that. There's times I'm like, well, I gotta read the Bible. I don't know where I'm gonna, and I'll pick it up, and it'll just kind of show me where. Not every time, but
open up and find a page, stick your finger on it, and read.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
I can say that. Tomorrow I will have 10 months of being free from alcohol.
That's awesome.
Never had a problem with drugs. Alcohol was my demon. I could not put the alcohol down. And for me, it wasn't until one night I was Ken, who I play music with. I was staying at his house. I was in a basement, and he was kind enough to let me live there. But I was miserable. I was so alone, and I did that for about 3 years, and finally I was like, man, I was raised to believe in God, and I believe in God, but I'm not really asking God, so I'm not, I'm not using my faith. And one night I just finally said, God, I can't do this my way. I can't. I need you to take over. Mm-hmm. And just this, and I'll save it because I want this to be about you, but I'm just to add to what you're saying, quickly, which is crazy because God had never really done a lot of things quickly in my life. It's His time. Just quickly, things changed. I got out. Bam! Next thing you know, my daughter lives with me full time now. This is the greatest thing. That wouldn't have happened had I not gotten sober and had I not cried out to God and had just a person came into my life and was like, hey, let's work on these things that bother you and have haunted you and this. And then that led me to go into a 12-step thing. And it's crazy. But I mean, I give it all to God because it started when I realized Jerry Foster's way did not work. It just did not work.
Right.
Period. I mean,
that's cool, man.
Not wanting to live. And probably I'm glad I didn't have a 9mm because I was writing my little letter. But anyway.
So many people are like that too, and so many people are on that edge, and they know in their heart of hearts that doing it their way isn't really ain't getting them what they want out of it.
But see, the weird thing in my case is on the surface, it looked great. I'm out having fun, rocking, meeting gals, and doing that. But I was just so empty, man. I mean, just devoid of joy. But wow, getting deep on the podcast. I love it, man. That's all right, though. That is all right. Because the whole point of this is, and I like it that we're able to do this.
That's where that Holy Spirit comes in, though, man. Because there's emptiness in people,
Yeah.
And no amount of drugs, if that's your thing, if looking for love in all the wrong places, if that's your thing, if there's so many different things people try to fill that spot with, and it's never enough. It's like a sieve, and it just goes right through. Yeah. And that's where the Spirit comes in. Holy Spirit comes in.
Yep. Absolutely.
Fills you up, man.
Absolutely.
Fills that hole.
And it is true. It is truly amazing. They speak of joy unspeakable, and it's like I can't put words to the joy of the life I have now versus what I had a year ago. It's just unreal. And
except for like a slip up, I like one slip up. I haven't touched meth in 16 years.
That's wonderful, man. I'm so glad because I have seen that drug just rob people's soul.
I'll drink every once in a while. I can't even say when the last time I have. It's not. But it was never something that was, a stronghold for me, if that makes any sense.
Sure. No, I see, and I'm just,
there's different things for different people.
Absolutely. There's I think it's almost like it's definitely an addiction.
Yeah.
But it's a mental thing. Sure. And I think it is trying to fill that emptiness, and
absolutely,
for whatever reason you feel beat down and just whatever the case may be, but it it just doesn't have to be that way. There's hope and there's help, and it definitely is legit, and it's really neat. This is one of the things I'm really digging too about this about getting to talk to different people, because you kind of, I know you on a superfluous kind of surface, but I've never really sat down and just talked to you and.
Right.
So what's your background? What's your testimony, man? I mean, I know you're a Christian. I've seen it on Facebook. A lot of people know that I am most definitely a Christian as well. I believe in that Christ died on the cross for my sin. But I don't get to sit down and talk to people in depth and feel that part of me. It's really cool. And it's cool to get to do that with somebody that's a part of the music scene in their way. Maybe you're not, one of the band, but I mean, huge. I mean, I can't state enough what you have done for the local music scene. But it's cool to just pick the brains of everybody involved, and it kind of gives you a neat little idea of how everything kind of goes together.
Sure.
Like all of the parts, all of the bands, all of the just ideas. It's neat because what would your radio show be like if you were a different kind of person? Maybe you were a selfish person, a disgruntled musician, and was like, forget it, I don't want to promote anybody if my, what I'm saying? And there's people like that. There's selfish people in the world that, well, if I can't become a millionaire, I hate all millionaires, or whatever the case may be. I couldn't be this, so I'm definitely not going to support people. I'm not saying you couldn't have been a musician, but it turns out you became a kick-ass DJ.
Yeah, I started doing this,
and it's so cool.
I love doing it. So.
Absolutely. So, all right, you're in, what was it, Hoxie, Arkansas, doing that radio show?
I did that. I did that, out in the field for a couple of years, and then I went to Hardy, Arkansas, and I was there. That was an oldie station. This Hoxie station, they were country. We played 45s, dude.
That's so cool.
We had 45s, a couple of cassettes, but mostly 45s, and like 2 CDs in the whole building. And we did that. What was weird, the dude that was running the place, he had some interesting philosophies. Some of them I've never forgotten. Some of them were just kind of out there. Like his format was he played country till about 3 o'clock, till the kids got off the bus, is what he said. When the kids get home from school, they want to hear the pop music. So we would be like a top 40 station from like 3 until we signed off at like 10 p.m. So, what
would the legalities be of something like that? Say if Z95 The Bone decided, hey man, we want to play Breaking Benjamin and that type of music till a certain time, and then after that we want to do really old honky tonk, Fair and Young, Buck Owens.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything.
Is there like a
you could be this whacktastic awesome station, because I mean I love all of that stuff, man.
Oh yeah,
I love that old classic country, and I love alternative music, and I love I'm a music lover, and there's a lot of us like that. You are too, man. So,
yeah.
Shoot, yeah, man.
So they're like, because I am completely, I'm ignorant. I am ignorant of how a radio station works. As far as like, I know nothing about it. As far as I know, you go in there and you just make magic.
That's what I thought too, man.
So someone like me who just is completely ignorant of how radio works, what would be like just a quick little rundown? How does a radio station work? As far as who picks the format, who sort of calls the shots, and who gets to refine them if there's any of that? Because from what I understand, there's, you got the company, and then they hire people to do this and that, and then I know nothing about networking.
For our station, or just in general? I mean, it depends.
Let's just say yours.
Okay. Yeah. We're pretty lucky as far as that goes. I mean, they let us call our own shots here locally. My boss, John, our general manager, he lets us, program directors for Z95 though, we don't work with a consultant. Your radio station is like a product, basically a commercial station like that. It's like a product like Gain or Tide or all these different products that's on the shelf. Well, that's the same as on your radio dial, and you just pick which one you want at the time,
Gotcha.
And our product is mainly, it's, classic rock format, but we do like the best of the old, the best of the new, and so that's kind of on my shoulders. It's odd because we're at a time right now. It's 2016. Where you got to really start thinking about, well, what is classic rock in 2016?
No kidding.
So I talk with the guys about it, a lot. The guys meaning, the awesome Chris Berger and Jake, and so I work with those two a lot on stuff, just to bounce stuff off of them. So, something like Smells Like Teen Spirit is we play the hell out of it on classic rock now,
Well, gosh,
so
it's
a lot
25,
of
20...
Yeah, a lot of the
25.
90s stuff is now in that category, too. So if you're playing that, do you still play the Moody Blues? How does that work together, And so that's where I come in. I come up with all the categories. Every song has a category, and then every hour we have clocks in the hour with the different categories in it and how we shuffle those. So I come up with that, and we have a system that generates a day of music that way. And so I go back through and edit to keep what we call a train wreck from happening. Like, Hello, I Love You from the Doors going into, Creeping Death from Metallica. It's just not going to sound correct,
Right. That's going to really throw some listeners off.
Yeah, it's what they call the train wreck.
So it's very much like a band putting a set list together, if any musicians are listening.
Very much so. Every day. So every day we got to comb through it a little bit and just make sure that a lot of the train wreck stuff isn't there, and and we're getting a spectrum of everything in the hour, your 70s, your 90s, your 80s, your all this kind of stuff. So that's kind of how we do it with ours. If an industry person asks me, well, what are you, we're going to say classic rock, because that's the easiest, safest thing to say, and people will get it and they'll know what's going on. But that's pretty much it. We follow some stuff like newer music that's coming out, and we review it. And you're talking about certain times of the day, playing certain things. Mm-hmm. If there's like say a Slipknot has a new song that comes out, I'm more likely to have that scheduled toward the evening, instead of like at say 6:30 in the morning, or something incredibly heavy like that. It might be played later on in the afternoon or the evening.
You don't think anybody would want to wake up to Slipknot?
I personally would. But again, we got to think about it. We're a product on a shelf, and
Absolutely.
It's all about the dollar sign before anything. And I wish I could say it's all about the music, man, but it's all about the money. When we're commercial rocks, we're
it is a business radio. First.
And first and foremost.
And people need to be real. A business is in business for one reason and one reason only: to ensure that its workers have paychecks.
Exactly, and we can keep the light bill on, and and we can go to a meeting at a corporate office in Virginia and say, this is what we've done for you this year, so let us not have to make any changes, and go to a satellite.
How often, if ever, has there been a change in the tide of music, and you were just like, I can't believe this is what's going on today, and I have to play this?
Yeah. Yeah. And you get any of us in here, any of like me or Chris or Jake, and they'll say the same thing. There's a lot of stuff that we don't like. There's a lot of stuff that I don't.
But just over your whole career, like the thing that comes to mind would be like, we'll say grunge, kind of edged out hair metal.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember thinking, oh my gosh, this has taken over?
Yeah, when I really knew that, when Smells Like Teen Spirit was being played on Top 40.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, holy shit. I was hearing Nirvana, and when I was at the Art Institute, there was a tape circulating around that had like Nirvana and Mudhoney and Soundgarden and some of those really good grunge acts.
Before they were faint, yeah.
Before that was like the big explosion, and we would hear that, and we just called it the grunge tape, and we listened to it from time to time and dig it. But yeah, did I see that coming and being big? I don't know. It was time for something else. It's been time for something else in rock for a long time.
You think we're at a place now in rock where it's
something needs to hit.
Man, I completely agree. There's been a lot of things, like, honestly, in my opinion, the last, and it wasn't a movement I even liked, but the last sort of one that made a dent as far as, oh, well, that's different and it's popular, was probably rap metal with, like, the Limp Bizkit type thing. Because since then, everything else has been... Just from what I can tell, they call it the brick-walled production, where you're going for loud on record versus nuance in records. Now, you go back and listen to the old analog records, you hear all these little things on there. You know, when it was on the 2-inch reel-to-reel tapes. Now, you go in and you fix all of this stuff with Pro Tools, and you have this perfect recording, but... If you're looking at the levels on these recordings, they're all peeking out, and it's all just
all pushed right,
compressed into yes. There's no dynamics, and
songs don't breathe like they used to.
No, there's no movement. None.
Let me hear the bass. Let the singer take a breath and sing
and hear his breath.
Yeah,
I was listening to "Paperback Writer" by the Beatles in headphones. Them and the Beach Boys are fun to listen to in headphones because you hear them coughing or, hitting their note. Now, at the very last of the song Paperback Writer, they're like, Paperback Writer. And but before that, the guitar, you hear someone go, Paperback, hitting their note before they go into singing that.
Right.
There's no way that's going to be on a 2015 record. Not going to happen. And this is the greatest band ever that sold blah, blah, blah. I mean, 50 years later, we're having specials about them on TV. I'm sorry, that isn't going to happen with Limp Bizkit.
Right.
It's
true, man.
So,
a lot of these bands that are really big right now on rock radio, like Shinedown, like Seether, like, a lot of these bands... Just like you're talking about, everything's so compressed and the songs don't breathe. And I'm not saying that they're bad songwriters. They've written some really good stuff, man. It's just the sound, the way it's recorded. It's like you said. You said it perfectly. I mean, I had a conversation with our engineer, Charlie Lampy, about it. He'll sit and talk about it too. He's like, all of your music, it's so compressed because he's the guy that he has our processors and our limiters and all that kind of stuff for the radio station.
And how do you say, no, that's not me. That's the record producer. I have nothing to do with that. It's not my fault that it sounds... But that does lead me to another question. There's another radio station out of Donovan, and it's a classic country station. I forget the name of it. I know it's out on the... I don't really want to promote it. Okay. I mean, I don't know if that would be tacky or an affront to you or not. But
I don't think so. I mean, I listen to it a lot. Okay. 97.5.
97. The Storm.
Storm, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like it because I like classic country.
I do too. Love it. Grew up on it.
But it sounds like, and again, I'm not trashing that station. It sounds like there's like extra reverb on the recordings. Does a radio station have the capability to? Okay. Yeah. I was wondering
because there's EQ. There's EQ that you can do. There's EQ, there's compression. There's limiters. There's all that stuff that There's processing that goes on for every station. Okay,
I would assume there is.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean. Okay, makes sense now. There you go. Learned something. So for you as a DJ, there's got to be a certain amount of like when I'm listening, I'm thinking like, how do they come up with the time to figure out what they're going to play? Then they're going to talk about a news item. Like, how much time management is involved in that? Like, because I'm trying to think of the stuff that somebody wouldn't normally think about. Like, I'm trying to think of off-the-wall questions that somebody who may never meet you would want to ask you. Like, how do you manage your time in the studio?
Your show prep is a big thing. You gotta know. With Google now, though, I mean, even if I had to say, I mentioned Seether, if I had to grab something to say after that song, I can get on Google real quick and be like, Google, Seether.com, give me some tour dates. All right, so what's going on here? And I could be like, okay, so all right, that's a new one from Seether. These guys are playing in Tacoma, Washington tonight at the Whale Barn. They're still doing some northeast dates, and they'll be. So you go there, and then you got that. So you've just you made your listener believe that you're so, into what's going on with the music, that you know where they're playing tonight, and some kind of promotion they have coming up and all that stuff. And it's important. We got to stay up to date with all that stuff, no matter what format you're in.
Sure.
So some formats you got to care where, Taylor Swift and the Kardashians took a shit last week.
Sure.
You got to know these things, man.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't not know. But yeah, you do have to manage your time. And a lot of it, while songs are going, we have sweeps, what we call a sweep. Like, there might be 30 minutes of music between, the 50, like 10 till, and then 20 after when we go on. There might be a break in between. You just look at your songs and you just, what am I going to say? There are public service announcements that you can read. There's promotions that are going on. And always, and I tell all of my people, because I'm the program director too, so I'm in charge of the DJs, like kind of the overseer of them, and I try to coach them along and stuff too. So I always preach to them, know what your artists are doing, know, if they're out on tour, where they playing tonight, because I just think that sounds cool. You hear somebody come on the air like, there's this band, and by the way, tonight, if you're in Chicago, you can catch them at, Wrigley Field or whatever. I don't know. It's just cool. You got to know what's going on with these people.
That's neat, man.
Yeah.
Who have been some of your favorite interviews? Like, have you ever been talking to somebody and you're like, I can't believe I'm talking to this cat?
Oh yeah. Yeah, a lot of them, man. I've had a lot of really good ones. Nikki Sixx of Motley Crue, I've talked to him a couple of times, interviewed him. That was just very special for me.
Did you get starstruck?
A little.
I'm a little starstruck tonight.
But once, please. Once you start, a lot of these guys, once you start talking to them, they're people,
Oh, yeah?
Vince Neil of Motley Crue, I was incredibly starstruck with him too.
And then he belched, and you're like, he's human.
Yeah. Yeah. There was all, because he and I were talking about AC/DC, because they were playing in the same town as they were that night, and I mentioned something about it, and he was like, hey man, they're buddies of mine. I'll probably go over there after the show and, hook up with them. And so, yeah, the two dudes from Motley Crue for sure. Stephen Pearcy of Rat. I'm one of those old, I had that phase and never lost it really, where I love the hair metal stuff. So
see, I'm that way with grunge. If I could meet Chris Cornell, I would ask for some DNA,
right,
so I could clone him.
I dig him too, man. Totally. Bruce Dickinson of Iron Maiden. That was special for me. Ronnie James Dio. Very special for me to do.
When did you get to interview Dio? Was it?
He was with when he got back with Heaven and Hell with Sabbath, and
so
they
that
did
was
the
like
Heaven and Hell tour
6 years ago or so.
Yeah,
somewhere in the
hasn't
even been a decade ago.
No, it wasn't. But a couple of years before he passed.
Yeah,
away.
that was real close to him passing, wasn't it? Yeah. Did you know he had cancer at that time? Did he know?
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so.
Well, we've been losing some greats, man.
And Lemmy, who we just lost, was one of my bucket list people. I would have loved to have talked to him just for a little bit, just for a little bit. Because he would, he's just somebody that would break it down for you and tell it like it is. And but yeah, there's been a lot of cool interviews that I've done. Mick Foley, I've done some wrestler interviews too.
Right on, man. Mick. He seems like he would be a real just down to earth.
He was very, very down to earth.
Cool dude, man. Just
Ric
hey, how you
Flair,
doing?
I interviewed Rick. He was a lot of fun. There's been a lot of the wrestlers I got to interview. Booker T. He was cool to talk to.
So, are you a wrestling fan?
Sure, man.
So, were you upset when we lost Dusty and Roddy?
No, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Piper.
Yeah.
Piper was so almost stupid that he was great. Like, he was
just like some guy out of the audience, kind of in a way.
Yeah.
But then he took it to that level. He's like, "Well, you want a show? I'm going to come out in my kilt and
absolutely play these bagpipes
and fight and
He had his nice little catchphrases.
Yeah.
You don't throw rocks at a man with a machine gun. I once heard him say that all that stuff on Piper's Pit that he would say as the segment ended was just off the cuff.
Back then, a lot of it was. A lot of their interviews and a lot of their live TV stuff was off the cuff, and that's awesome. I mean, You think about all the gold that those guys said on the mic.
Oh,
all
man.
the gold, all the good stuff.
Even
a lot of it was.
Do you ever watch old Superstar Billy Graham interviews?
Yeah.
My gosh, that dude found a way to make everybody love and hate him.
Yep.
He was like the first wrestler to really be a loved bad guy. I saw this interview he's doing. It's probably 77 when he's champ. Vince McMahon's interviewing him, Madison Square Garden. Half of them are booing, half of them are chanting for, rooting for. I mean, and this was, back when it was still kayfabe, and you didn't break that.
Right.
Kayfabe, by the way, was a word that the wrestlers used to say, hey, there's somebody outside of the industry here. Pretend it's real. Do not,
Right.
We still hate each other outside of the ring.
Keep the curtain up.
Right.
Yep.
Keep right there. You go.
Yeah.
So, this was before they had all of the, even the Dave Meltzer had those underground magazine
Right,
that talked about
dirt sheets.
the dirt sheets.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then of course,
websites
and then of course later came you have the advent of the internet that took over the dirt sheets.
Sure.
So now you can get on YouTube and all of these. So speaking of wrestling, I was wanting to go to this, and off the mic you made a reference to it when Kyle was on the Z95 roster.
When he was
when
on
he was a
with us.
DJ.
Yeah.
You were saying you encouraged him to.
Yeah, pretend, because he's a character, and when I'm on the air, I'm a character, just like I'm myself, but maybe a little larger than life, a little more larger than life, and I told him, I said, just be that, you have your character, that's you, that's who you are, you're K-Rob, so when you get on the mic, it's like you're cutting a wrestling promo. It's the same concept. When you're going over promotions, when you're going over public service announcements, read that as your character, find a way to say it, and it seems like you're that it's coming from you. You're talking to somebody that's listening.
And with him being such a huge wrestling fan,
he took that and ran with it. So
great guy, man. Great guy. Absolutely love him to death. When's his baby due? It's got to be fairly soon.
It is soon. I know. I don't know for sure right now. I can't think of when, but it's very soon.
That's so neat. So you're talking about. I'm spastic with my interviews, by the way.
That's fine.
I'm most definitely not a professional with it.
We're still in the middle of my Tell Me Your Story radio story. So
yeah.
We'll come back to that. What's next?
What? Yeah.
What kind of beer goes good with fish?
Yeah. Well, back when I drank, I was a Miller Lite kind of guy. You were talking about interviews, and you mentioned bucket list.
Yeah.
Who's on it right now? If you let's just say this, you could have. Gosh, I hate to say just one, because that's like asking, well, if you could only have one album for the rest of your life. I mean,
sure.
But I would just say 5 off the top of your head. I'm wanting to catch you off guard. I don't want you to think about it.
Okay.
Just name 5 people you'd like to do, and I'm going to assume that those are the 5 because those are the ones that come to your mind.
Robert Downey Jr. would.
What
be
would
one.
you ask him?
What it's like to have that freedom. I mean, the guy has enough money to send all of our grandkids to college if he wants to, There's just something about him I dig where he's taken that now. Dude's lived 1,000 lives, man, and he's come back from it, and
can
he
play
does a lot of
1,000 characters.
Yeah.
My God, he's a good actor.
He's a great actor, and he was then, but that stronghold of that addiction, that drug thing was robbing him of that, know?
Yeah.
And so he came back, stumbled a couple of times. Everybody got behind him. So, and here he is now, how many zeros? And there's a lot. He's comfortable. When he goes on an interview somewhere, he's just comfortable with himself. And he's got that burden of he doesn't have to worry about, how he's going to pay the electric bill or, how he's sending his kids through college, stuff like that. But besides that, I mean, he's just been such an overcomer and just, a conqueror. He's definitely one at the top of my list I would love to just chat with one day.
Awesome.
Other than that, I don't know.
Superstar Billy Graham, right?
That would be cool if we could pull that off.
The man of the hour, too sweet to be sour. I love Superstar.
I would have loved to. I got to talk to Dusty in person, not on an interview basis.
Oh, was that when he was with Harley? See, I was living in Canada, but my dad called me at the time and was like, I don't believe this, son. I just met Harley Race and Dusty Rhodes.
It was neat, man. Because I didn't get to talk to him for very long. I just kind of walked by him. I had interviewed Harley for that show that they did here, and I had interviewed Harley when I worked in West Plains. We actually got to do an angle. He's got a wrestling school, and they do some indie shows and stuff, and they were working out of West Plains for a while, and we got to do an angle where we got involved, me and another DJ, or one of our country DJs.
How cool.
We got to, I got to like hit somebody with a cookie sheet, and all kinds of stuff. It was neat.
A good friend of mine who's at Lake of the Ozarks, where his school is, a fellow named Mark McFeeters. I don't know if you know him. He's
Mark.
An amazing musician. He did all the a lot of the Powder Mill production stuff along with Jeff Chapman. Mark's a really good friend of mine. And Harley recognizes him now. He goes to the show that Mark plays at every year.
That's cool, man.
He's at this Music on Main show. It's one of those Branson style shows. And Harley knows him, recognizes him. Hey, how you doing, Mark? That kind of thing. Yeah.
So I walked by them when they were here, and I was just like, Dusty, thanks for coming to Poplar Bluff, man. And he was like, oh, you're welcome, baby. Just the way he does that. I was like, oh, he just said it, He just said it to me. That's cool. I was a little kid again there for a minute,
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm going to do everything I can to get Paul McCartney on this podcast. I think he'll do it.
You know what? We just need to keep doing them. That's why. That's why I said when you said you up for a podcast, I'm like, yeah, I will support this podcast.
Man, I appreciate that so much.
There's so many interesting people around here.
Boy, there are characters.
Yeah, so many good characters, man.
So many, and I'm. It's weird. When I first started this, I was like, man, what am I going to even talk about? I just want to talk to my buddies, get it on tape, because God knows when there's no tape rolling, there's so much funny stuff that gets said.
Yep.
So much, band stories we all swap. This needs to get out there. Mm-hmm. Because when you do play music, people, my roommate will be out and about, and she's like, I can't believe how many people recognize you through music. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, it's really neat how it's all connected here. And I'll tell her a story how I may have met somebody or whatever the case may be. And it just kind of hit one day that... And it kind of started when ELB was at a rehearsal one day. We were just cracking jokes after, and we were like, man, we need a podcast. Mm-hmm. And I've got to get Ken on here, because the dude is just one story after another. He's just flipping hilarious.
He's funny, man. Makes some good salsa, too.
Makes great salsa.
I used Ken's salsa to taunt people one time, man. Right around the time, you guys were going to play Bone Stock that year, and... I was like, and Ken had brought by some salsa, and it had nothing to do with
Oh no!
With ELB playing it, but it was so.
He
funny.
would give that salsa to anybody that would eat it. He was so proud of it. He loved my salsa.
He was on a salsa roll, and so and I mentioned, I was like, if your band wants to play, or Bone Star, we got a couple extra spots, but my question to you is, do you have salsa? So I would use that for some breaks and stuff. And how good is your salsa? Basically, is what I need to know. Your band can be okay, but what's your salsa?
What's
like?
the salsa like? I gotta say, I think the salsa was better than the band.
It was.
Yeah, it was. Definitely was.
You remember the salsa.
I remember the salsa. Don't remember too much. Man, talk about having a brand. And ELB did have a brand, and it was that psychedelic female, and that was one of the things I
love that. I love the fact that there was not an Ernie Lewis.
There was no Ernie Lewis.
That's so awesome.
No, there's no. That was that was our brand, was that psychedelic lettering. I like it so much. I got a tattoo in psychedelic lettering,
which is cool looking. And one of y'all's shows, you didn't know what the heck you guys were going to play, and that was what was cool.
Yeah, Yeah. Well, that was kind of the thing, and it's funny. We're still together. on paper, I guess. I don't know. Like, if we get asked to play WAP stock again, we'll definitely play it. That's one of my favorite gigs, just because I like what it's about. I loved playing bone stock. I loved that it was for the Wounded Warriors the year we played. That was really cool. Me being a former soldier, I have a place for our military, and probably would even if I hadn't served. But yeah, that's one of the fun things about ELB at this point is we're not out being a bar band anymore, so we can do that kind of stuff.
Right.
But even when we were a bar band, we did it, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't work so well. But yeah, man,
it's kind of tough for bar bands now. You know, it's what are people digging? You know, that are going to show that are going out, and are people going out like they used to? I mean, that's.
Well, I
some
think
weekends
that,
yes, some weekends no.
You just you just kind of hit and miss sometimes.
I don't get to get out as much as I'd like to, man. I got kids at home. I got a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old, and you know,
ain't a thing wrong with that, man.
At the house right now, so
it's
like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I wish I could get out and support more shows and stuff, though.
Well, you know, you just do what you got to do. There ain't no shame in having a family.
Oh, I know.
I've recently became a full-time single dad, so yeah, I completely understand the having to do the family thing. I have a deep appreciation for that. All right, so we're getting here at the 1 hour mark, and I've been trying not to go over it too much. I would love to have you back if you would be so kind, because I mean, there's so much stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
The one question I've got to ask, if I don't, anybody listening to this is going to kick my butt for not asking.
You shouldn't then. Then that'll give us something to talk about next time. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. But,
who's going to win the Super Bowl?
The Super Bowl? Oh, gosh. At this point, I really like the groundswell that the Chiefs have. I don't know, though.
How do they do today? I haven't even checked scores since I've been home.
I have not. Last I saw, they were ahead. I don't know for sure.
It's awesome. A good buddy of mine who owns Maverick Glass.
Mm-hmm.
He and his boys went today. I just saw that on Facebook. So cool. I hope they did win, because that's one heck of a drive from Poplar Bluff.
Yes.
Anyway, Randy, I appreciate you being on here, man. I do hope you will come back. I would love for it. We can talk more in detail about local bands you've dealt with, and just we'll really get in depth into band stuff. I appreciate you coming on here and giving your story about how you have overcome your addictions and how Christ helped you with that, and how your reliance on God gets you through. I think that is amazing. I think that is the basis for all things good in the world. And you're right, man. Love is where it's at. We have to love one another.
Let me give some love and a shout out real quick to my crew, like Chris Berger and Jake. Thank you, and my River Radio family. I appreciate them supporting me and what I do, and it all comes together. And you for doing this podcast, and all the local musicians who get together for this big, like, dysfunctional, wonderful family that we have. Man, it's awesome. So 2016, just keep doing it, man.
It's going to be a good year.
It's going to be a great year.
And you were my first guest for 2016.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, starting it off right. All right, well, that's going to end it for this edition. I hope you all enjoyed and were entertained and were informed and got to maybe see a side of Mr. Bailey that you typically don't get to. Listen to him on the mornings. What time do you actually come on in the mornings? I'm not going to lie. I hear you at about 7:30.
Yeah, 6. I'm on for sure at 6. Sometimes I start at 5:30, but yeah, from 6 till 11, every MON through FRI.
All right, and that's Z95, the Bone 95.5 on your dial.
Yeah.
All right, so that's going to do it. Thank you again, Randy, and I will hopefully be back next week with another podcast.